To the Hayward Library, this is an revised.
What's revised?
Yeah, I found them.
All right, it's 10:05. We will call the Sawyer County Administration Committee meeting to order, please. Roll call, Carol. Here.
Bill Sweeter,
Here.
James Slender,
Here.
Ron Kinsley,
Here.
Helen Dennis.
Okay, thank you. Let the record indicate we have a quorum. Certification of compliance with open meetings law, Carol. Thank you. Meeting agenda has been presented. Moving on to number 4, public comment. Anybody here that would like to address the board? Anybody online? Virtual?
Linda has her hand up.
Linda has her hand up.
Okay, you unmute her? Okay, good morning. State your name, please.
Linda Zilmer, Edgewater property owner. And my public comment is, first of all, a repeat of a public comment from the previous month that I am just amazed that the county has not taken up the issue of how the Second Amendment resolution came from committee to the full county board and then passed. And if that is not confusing enough, then at last month's county board, there was a matter, it was an agenda item, and it was to take up discussion on the county board policies and procedures regarding public comment. And I haven't talked to one supervisor who understands what happened with having to have a special vote to discuss what was an agenda item. And so I would ask this committee at some point, would you please take up both the Second Amendment and then how the public comment agenda item for last month's county board was handled, because it makes no sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to approach the board? Anybody else online? All right, then we'll move on to number 5, minutes from our previous meeting, admin, August 13th, 2020. Mr. Slender.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Kinsley, second. A motion by Mr. Slender, second by Mr. Kinsley to approve the meeting minutes as presented. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, number 6. Weiss Community Library Hayward 2021 budget discussion. Mr. Hopp.
Yeah, so we invited libraries that we contribute money to the admin committee today. We've been inviting the other outside organizations that report to different committees to come in with their budget requests so that they could explain their budget request to the committee that they report to. So libraries essentially don't report directly to a committee, so they are here at admin today to discuss the virtues of the services that they provide in the libraries, respective libraries within the county. So Chairman Weiss Library is first.
Yes. Go
Well,
ahead. Yep.
I
State your
have-
name, please.
Molly Lang Jones, I'm the library director, and I have quite a lot of papers for you, but it was the easiest way to kind of show you what we've done in such an odd year with this COVID-19. And basically, just to give you a little background, we went from being totally closed when we were advised by the State Department of Public Instruction to opening for curbside pickup every day of the week. And people call in, make an appointment, and we gather all the materials they request, put them in a bag, and we're hand sanitizing the whole bit throughout all of this. And then to protect their privacy, we put their initials on it and describe the kind of car they're driving. They make an appointment to 10:30, they pull up, we have the bag out there for them, they show us the library card through the door, and they're on their way. They pick up their items and they're on their way. And I propose that we continue to do this for people even after COVID hopefully goes away. I think a lot of people like the pickup service. And then we opened up on a Wednesday, so people could have half-hour appointments in the library. A lot of people everywhere in our county do not have access to public computers. And as you know, everybody needs access nowadays. So we opened another day till 7 o'clock in the evening to try to help the people who work till 5 get a chance to come in. And if numbers stay stable, we would like to open a 3rd day a week for in-person and stop with the appointments. Just let anybody come in when they want. But we have taken a lot of pains, and I was able to get a grant for COVID PPE supplies. So we have plexiglass sheets hanging around the desk. I was able to get desktop dividers to eventually we'll be able to open up our meeting room again so that people can use it, because I know that's a service the public wants. We were busy the whole time that we've been down for the COVID-19. Can you hear me? Okay. We continue to provide the services as we usually do. The only changes are that our summer reading program was online, and we created physical activities for the kids as well for using our nature trail and the pond. So it's different this year, but we still had a lot of people get involved in all of this. So we plan to, as soon as we can, open more to the public. And one thing I could say about my budget is this is the first time in 25 years that I have been here that our revenues are substantially higher than our expenses. And the reasons are COVID-19, our electrical bills were lower. We received a $25,000 estate settlement, which you can't predict that you're going to get that every year. That was a really large one. We received $12,000 from the Hayward Library Foundation for the first time ever. They did warn me that they can't promise they're going to be able to do that next year because they just did really well on their investment in this past year. So we're lucky to get that. And then I got an almost $7,000 grant from the Wisconsin Humanities Council so that I can purchase, for 3 months, I can purchase PPE supplies to protect the public and to help protect us.
Okay, thank you. So your request then is the same amount you requested last year?
Yeah.
What you're saying? Even though your revenues are up, and you've had other donations.
Donations
Correct.
are really difficult to depend on because they do vary from year to year. This is the first time we've had a $25,000 estate settlement. It may be the first time ever.
Mr. Schlender?
A couple of questions. In this narrative, you say that your employees are not paid as much as McDonald's employees. Can you expand on that? Do you know how much McDonald's employees are paid?
When I first wrote that, I did know. I can't remember now, but it's true. Our employees are way underpaid for the job that they do. I can find that for you, Mr. Schlinder.
Well, my concern is that, I mean, if you're asking for an increase, but you're doing it contrastingly against something that's not, I mean, I don't know if that's a respectful contribution in your budget analysis. The second question I have is, so we have 3 libraries, correct? We have, Hayward, LCO, Winter,
Correct.
and that's within the county?
Yeah.
When you submit your budget narratives or your budget request, do you cooperate with the other libraries? Because what's been happening for at least the last 3 years is if one library gets an increase, the other two libraries ask for something comparable. Has there been any discussion between the other libraries? Because you guys are connected already, right? You share a network.
Oh, most of us, Carol isn't always able to make the meetings because there are only two people there, she and Mike. Donna and I speak to each other, of course, when we know we're going to meet with you. But I'm not asking for an increase.
Is there any discussion among the other libraries about how you guys present your budgets? So this is just your request based on only your information, with no discussion from Winter and no discussion from LCO, correct?
I have not spoken to Carol this fall. She hasn't been at work all that much, truthfully. Donna and I just speak when the date is set for us to come and present.
There's
Is it
an
for Winter?
Yes,
Yes.
I am the director from Winter.
Okay.
Correct.
She'll be coming up.
So do we have, do we have library appointees that are here to help advocate? Because I feel this is almost lopsided. The college is not represented in its library, and we have nothing else in here, and we're going to be making some kind of discussion about that. So
Tom, who is our waste library?
Well, this is my board president, Matt,
Oh, okay.
Ostrander.
right, so that's actually not my question.
I-
So
So the representative for Winter is Helen Bennett. I'm not sure who the representative for here is.
what about LCO?
Well, Bruce Paulson is the county board appointee to my
Thank you.
library board.
Yes. And we do have an appointee for LCO. I can't think of it right.
Can you
I
look at
thought
that
it was
list?
Mr. Flanders. Can you look it up, Carol, please?
No, I was actually taken out. So.
Okay.
And
I know at one
And
time it was
LCO
Kathy
documents still
McCoy,
reports
but
me-
Susan Taylor.
the LCO documents still reports me as the governing board member, and unless somebody appointed.
No, Susan Taylor. You just confirmed it.
So essentially, then the answer to my question would be is that, so when the libraries are making their presentations to the county board, they're doing them independently based on their own individual needs, and that there is no real collaboration between the libraries in terms of how that impact is going to be on the county budget, correct? That sounds like the answer to my question.
yeah, it has not come up before, Mr. Schlinder.
Right.
Actually, it's probably for
We have
Mr.
all the
Mr.
libraries
Schuman. So
come in during this.
that's a fair assessment then, right?
If I may, I'm unclear about the purpose of your question.
The purpose
Because
of my
Yeah.
question is actually for the committee. It's in terms of how, it has nothing to do with the request, and I support the library and have no problems with what your request is. My concern is that whenever we get to the budget discussions and we start advancing one library or taking the libraries independently, we always end up pushing them all together. And if we're going to push them all together, at least they should have a conversation so that one isn't somewhat negatively impacted by the discussions that we're having collectively. And it's nothing on you. Your presentation is fine. I don't have a question with that. I just want to make sure that if we're going to make a decision at the budget discussion about how we're going to reflect these, then it should be equally represented,
Yeah,
because we
100%.
always do that when we get to that.
Yep.
And
I
it puts them in an unfair position
And
because
we will
they end up
invite,
having to negotiate for something that didn't have a conversation with
Jim,
the
we'll
other.
invite Susan Taylor to represent us. All right, is there any other questions for our Sherman and Ruth Weiss Library? Matt, you want to comment anymore? Or you good?
Yeah, I do have a couple things
Okay.
I'd like to say. The amount that we're requesting from the county is the same as the 2 previous years. Despite the fact that we did have some decreased revenues from public charges this year due to COVID. The $149,000 that's not covered by the county, that we're projected to spend, that's covered by our public charges, donations, grants, fundraising, payments from other libraries, fund transfers,
Money.
from our dwindling accounts. We've got a large staff of volunteers, both formal and informal, who help to keep the library running and keep costs down. Our library does as much as possible for as many people as possible while constantly struggling to keep our expenses down. We watch every penny that is spent at the library. And a lot of people think that this money is just going to pay circulation costs. But circulation of materials is only the tip of what we do. We provide computer and Wi-Fi services for people who otherwise wouldn't have it. We provide information services at our desk. We give people a space to have meetings. We provide research assistance. We host youth programs, especially during the summer. We have book clubs, films and lectures. We have a nature park with nature hikes and instruction. We provide educational support for the schools. We offer online materials. We offer audio and large print materials for people who otherwise wouldn't be able to enjoy materials. And we have a full range of periodicals. We had over 5,000 uses of our computers in the library last year, 16,000 uses of our Wi-Fi, 17,000 uses of e-materials, and 3,400 users of our various enrichment programs. I have a part-time job now at the Chamber of Commerce. I work for the Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau. We had a guy come in there a couple of weeks ago. He didn't know where else to go. His house had just burned down and he had lost everything. And so I went to our folder of handy resource materials and I gave him lists of agencies, utilities, food shelves, people that he could call and connect with online. And he said, okay, but my phone and my computer burned up in the fire. So how can I even access all of these? Right away, I thought of the library. So I called over to the library and I said, can you guys help this guy out? And we went there and Molly set him up with a extended computer usage in the meeting room and the support that he needed to get started connecting with these resources. So, I mean, these are just examples of all the things the library does on what seems to me to be next to nothing. I know at $200,000 seems like a lot of money, but if you look at all the help that we're providing the community, it is money well spent, I assure you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, any further questions for the Chairman Ruth Weiss Library? Appreciate it.
I want to thank you for taking
Oh,
time.
yes.
There's a hand up.
And you have that. Oh. Anyone move? Is that Helen? Or do you want to take 661-0280? Better. Okay, go ahead. Can you hear us? Mike, are they muted?
They have to unmute themselves. I can't do anything.
I can't do anything from here, right?
They,
Move forward.
Okay. All right, I appreciate it. We'll move on then to number 7, the Winter Public Library budget request.
Okay, I'm Donna Nucky. I'm the Winter Public Library Director. We're requesting the same as we have the last 2 years as well. Although we have less expenses as far as our, operational costs when it comes to electricity and whatever else, because we were shut down for probably 5 weeks. But our staff and I were able to do virtual professional development with each other. So honestly, it was a good use of our time because we don't get that amount of time necessarily because we are one person in our library. So I am actually a part-time director and my staff is all part-time. And so we have one person in the building per shift. Therefore, we don't always see each other or connect with each other face to face. So it was really helpful that we were able to use virtual professional development and have discussions based on that. But also while we were closed, even though our library was closed for 5 weeks, we were able to assist patrons with online opportunities, whether it was their own accessing websites or whatever. We were constantly checking email and assisting them while we were closed. However, when we opened up, we are open 6 days a week for appointment only. Because of the size of our building, we're a smaller building, so we can only have so many people in our building at a time. And we also offer curbside pickup. So our inclusivity was very important in keeping us aware of making sure that we are able to, everybody has access to the library in one form or another. My plug for, I think, Matt, you really hit on some of the points that I have here. As far as our offerings, what I see down in the winter area is because we are open on Saturdays, and some businesses are not open on Saturdays on Main Street. Therefore, tourists access our building a lot, and they find information. As we know that fiber optics or access to internet services, Wi-Fi, or even the cell tower, depending on your service provider, is difficult in our area. So therefore, the library seems to be the place to connect with the Wi-Fi in order to have that access with their, whatever for their needs. We're seeing, especially, I'm also a school teacher, so we are seeing the discrepancies in our students with virtual learning when we were in shutdown. And the library has become a place for those students to access the Wi-Fi and to be able to connect and continue with their education when we are when the schools are closed. We did try to, of course, we always do some really big fundraisers for us, and because those events were canceled, our fundraisers were canceled and put on hold. So our revenue as far as outside sources was hurt a little bit this year, but we do have some opportunities coming up, and of course donations that came in from people. We usually do a color run that raises about $4,000 for our library, and we had a group of people that did a virtual color run unbeknownst to me and donated the money to the library. So that was helpful in offsetting our costs. And also we participated and applied for the Wisconsin Humanities grant, which was a CARES grant, a competitive grant. I think you did the first cycle, and I applied for the second cycle. And we were also awarded that grant to help offset for the PPE. We still see patrons that are not comfortable coming into the building, so therefore we are looking at continuing our curbside pickup for that. And like I said, we're open 6 days a week by appointment, so people can access our computer stations. I do see now more when we talk about taxpayer, and we do appreciate the taxpayers' monies being used for libraries, a portion of it for libraries. We do see a lot more of our cabin people that are staying at their cabins longer and doing business using the Wi-Fi at the libraries as well. So we're still open, because I do hear, are you open yet? We're open, but it does look a little different than normal, and we're hoping to get back to normal would be ideally. Our after school program at the Winter School District has been canceled for the year. We'll continue. We've always done a connection with them. So now we'll be on our own and do some virtual activities for the students to keep them connected and to the library. And of course, we have tons of community connections that we partnership. And we still have the library. Our building is used a lot for meetings. Like we have social workers that meet in our building. We have DVR that uses our building to meet with clients. So we're trying to have access to our building and just be a resource for our community. And so we appreciate the funding that we do get from the county.
Great, thank you. Helen, do you want to say anything? And if you do, please unmute yourself. You may have to dial 9
*6.
*6. 9 *6.
No.
*6.
Just *6.
Oh, *6. I'm sorry.
There you go.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, now I hear you. Thank you, Helen.
Oh, sorry about that. My question was for the Sherman Library in Hayward. You're requesting $200,000, which is what you've been getting, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, what's the total of the grants and donations that you've gotten?
We received $15,000 from an estate this year. We received Wisconsin Arts Council, is that it? Humanities Cares Grant for $6,880. And we received $12,000 from our Hayward Library Foundation. And that is a one-time gift at this time because they had a particularly good year of investing. I can't count on that $12,000 every year yet.
No, I understand that, but is there any way that that can be subtracted from the 200,000?
Well, those things, when people make donations, they typically will say, even though it's not necessarily legal, because once someone makes a gift, it's a gift and the library's supposed to be able to use it as needed. But a lot of
That's
times,
right.
Right. A lot of times people will donate with the request that it be used for certain items. And if that does go hand in hand with items that we need to purchase, it's great because in those cases we could subtract. Most of the time we can't. Like the $12,000 that came from the foundation was requested to be used to develop our nature trail and outdoor classroom. And if there was anything left over, we could use it as needed.
Thank you. All right, Helen, do you wish to say anything about the winter library then?
About what?
Your winter library? Their request, same as last year.
Yeah, it's the same as last year, and they get a 1% raise, but they do an awesome job, and they watch their pennies also. I just, I can't say enough about them.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Kinsley.
I appreciate the libraries. I think they do a wonderful job. It's important to the community. I have a question for Donna. With the homespun holidays canceled, I know you normally have a fundraiser that goes with that. Are you able to run that fundraiser every year?
Well, the fundraiser we do with that is a raffle type thing, so we may be able to do it.
I hope you can.
We're working on it. Our friends of the library is working on it. The problem is that, when you keep asking donations from the same people, it makes it difficult. Whereas the homespun holidays brings in thousands of people from outside of the community. So, we're definitely trying to be creative with fundraising though.
You do a wonderful job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, concerns for the winter library request? Appreciate it. All right, then we'll move on to number 8, LCO Ojibwa College Community Library. And I guess I would like to move this, Tom, postpone it and move it to October's meeting where we can have a representative here and they can advocate for their request.
They were invited to come to this meeting as well.
I understand. But
So
thank you. Go
what
ahead,
was the
Mr.
request from last year?
31.
And then, so what, and that was, and 31 was a decrease from the previous year, correct? Mr. Hoff?
I don't have that in front of me, but they did supply, their calculation for this year, which is, I believe, what their request was based upon.
So my question, and then I want this question to be answered when you come back in October, is if their request from 2 years ago was a certain amount, and if there was a decrease from that amount to this amount, and their requested amount that is decreased from last year's amount to this amount, then I need to know why. Because we have the other libraries asking for and being maintained at their current level. It doesn't sound like there's any kind of cooperation or any kind of communication between the 3 libraries. And the 3 libraries provide the same services, but yet we seem to have one library that is being a little bit more respectful of our budget. And then the other ones are are asking for the same amounts. And it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate the services that they're providing, especially in a COVID situation, which is put in just a crazy demand on them. But to me, it seems disproportionately impacting the tribal library versus the other two libraries.
Thank you, Jerry. We will. But Carol, we're gonna move those number 8 to next month's meeting, okay? And I'll reach out to Susie, make sure she's there. All right, so moving on to number 9, Northern Waters Library Service budget request. Tom, is you on here for representing them?
I believe Sherry's on the line.
Okay. Sherry,
I am on the line. Can you hear me?
we can hear you. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me attend online during this crazy time. I really appreciate it. A kind of an overview of Northern Waters budget situation. We are requesting no increase from what we asked last year, holding it steady at $23,631. Kind of give you an overview of what's happened to us since the pandemic. We didn't have any cost savings because we didn't really shut down like all the other libraries did. Our staff continued to work and continued to work in the building as needed. So with that said, some of the things that we did do for our member libraries, we did set up all the directors and the staff at the libraries with remote working access. So if they were at home, they could keep working, and that's something the system did for them. We did, the libraries that wanted it, we extended their Wi-Fi access on their properties so more people could use the Wi-Fi from longer distances. I was placed on the governor's task force within the Department of Public Instruction for the reopening plan so we could get the libraries reopened as fast as possible and as safe as possible. And I continue to work on that task force. And so for the system, we do run kind of the guts of all the technology in all the libraries. We also provide access to Overdrive, which is all the e-materials. And so that's been busier than ever. Most libraries have seen double or triple the amount of usage. And that's what your county funds also help provide, is access to that. So when the libraries were closed, people were still checking out materials electronically. Some of the challenges we have is the quarantine that is recommended by the Department of Public Instruction. It has used up all of our delivery materials, so we do have extraneous costs for those because we have ran out of bins, and bins are being price gouged right now by the manufacturers. It is a state recommendation that 4 days of quarantine for materials to make sure they're safe, and it is recommended if there is space in your building to extend that to 6 or 7 days because COVID does live on those materials for that long. So that's a challenge for us. And then our mail-a-book program, that was shut down while the libraries were shut down because we coordinate that with the library's materials. And so that was shut down while the libraries were shut down, but that is going full force, and that's been busier than ever. So we are mailing materials and taking reference requests for everybody who lives more than 15 miles from a library or has any homebound reasons. So we are still averaging about 5 new patrons per week in that program. So that's kind of the overview. We also expect next year that our postage costs will go up for our mail-a-book program. But again, we are not asking for an increase.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Is there any questions from the board to Sherry for Northern Waters Library request? None? Okay, thank you, Sherry. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yep. All right, we'll move on to number 10 then. Veteran Service Department report. Gary?
Good morning. For August, we had 413 phone calls, 163 letters, emails, faxes, and 96 office visits. Our compensation and pension claims submitted 47 disability and pension claims to date and received retroactive payment of $317,841.71 for claims decided in the veterans' favor. Our training remains up to date. I'm still scheduled to go get my recurring training done on the 5th of October through the 10th. But we will see. They've canceled the spring turned into summer training and summer ended up canceling. So due to COVID. So we will see what happens. Michelle is up and running. She's good to go. As long as we got some minor training coming up next spring for her. But she's good. And we will see about what they do with me. There's not much I can do about it. If they don't provide training, they don't provide training. So and we move on. So that's it. Congressman Tiffany's event. I showed up. I was one of 4 displays, and we only had 1 visitor, and that was from the paper. So people are afraid of COVID, I think, for the most part. So they stayed in. That's basically it. You wanted to talk about budget as well. I told you the last 2 meetings, no increase. Well, I've got to change to that. After I got done with the second one, our perpetual care of graves for veterans and veterans families. I've been watching it creep up slowly. I had budgeted $6,000, asked for $6,000 every year to cover that. And it slowly was working its way up. I think the last year I put down there was like $5,600, 5524 last year, out of $6,000. And so when I did this year's budget, I looked at the averages for the last 2 to 3 years, and so it's a slow creep. But we went over this year. I had to ask Mr. Hoff to allow me to transfer $700 from an account that was still high and unspent into that account for perpetual care graves to cover the expenses for the perpetual care. And in turn, I'm requesting that we move from $6,000 to $7,000 for perpetual care graves for the county. To cover those expenses. I would assume, I hope that it will cover next year and perhaps the following year. But it was not a good year, right? As far as that goes. We've lost a lot of people. So
Gary, where did you take the money from then?
Let's see. That is a good question. I think I wanted to say it was from my office budget. I want to say it was from the office budget that I had it transferred. I did not bring that paperwork exactly, but my office supplies was $1,000, and I think that's where we pulled the money from to cover that. So office supplies have historically been money going back to the general fund. I'm pretty frugal on what we spend.
Yeah.
So I don't want to cut myself short either, because then I got to come to you and go, hey, I mismanaged, or I didn't manage well enough, or I didn't plan well enough. So it's like a double-edged sword when we do this. So
what about transportation?
Thank you. That's a good question too. So the transportation, like I told you last meeting, I brought it up. So where's the transportation grant? And during the headlight look. They come back and said, okay, 1 September, we'll have the transportation grant. Nothing, crickets. And went back to them again, because the main question was, due to COVID, it's pretty much stopped, are taking veterans down to Minneapolis and back, which is going to affect the grant increase, in order to maintain the grant around $12,000, $12,500. So September 1st came and went, and then it didn't happen. Now I got this week, they said October 1st, they will have the grant paperwork out there. And we asked for them to try to do an average of what we've done in the past years for transportation for reimbursement for this year, but it violates the state statutes. However, that being said, they budgeted for X amount of money, like like I do with my budget for the coming year for expenditures. So it doesn't mean that they can't increase the grant, not necessarily, because of that money is still there. It was budgeted for that. So we will see. I guess we will see. The state has not come back, like I said, it will be October 1st when we'll find out what they've decided to do. So I guess the good news is we haven't spent it, and I'm optimistic. I am optimistic that we'll be fine, even with the reduction, and go back and rebuild from there. So.
Okay, and Gary, have you seen an increase of mental health, behavioral health, PTSD with your consumers during this pandemic?
Yes, there was. I mean, there's obviously strain from the beginning. There was strain, but I will tell you, my biggest fight with the VA, and I'm talking state and federal, is their code, being a nurse, is do no harm, right? Do no harm, and I'm here to argue that it has been nothing but harm for our veterans, and I'll tell you why. I lost a veteran, passed away Sunday night. He came into my office 30 days prior, had problems, and I fought with the VA. Several times on the phone, he'd come into my office because they wouldn't let him into the clinic because they were afraid of COVID. They've been directed that they don't go into the clinic without an appointment. You're not allowed in. So you have to have an appointment to be seen by a doctor or a nurse. So they come to my office where I park me in front of my desk, and we call the VA in Minneapolis, the triage line. And I argue and I fight with the nurse on the phone until we get this gentleman an appointment to go to the clinic. So we force him into the clinic the following day so he can be seen because he does have a problem, and I can see that he is not well. We get him down to the clinic, he's seen. They give him some medication, they kick him out the door. He ends up getting really sick. He goes to the emergency room. The emergency room takes him in. They get things settled down. They give him some medication. They kick him out the door. This was after hours. Obviously, I'm not here. It's evening when he went. So he's smart enough to do that. He comes back to me a week later, and we're back into the same thing. Things are much worse now, and it makes no sense to me medically. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse, but I can see that a left arm and a right leg don't tie together for many things. So we call the triage line again, and I go back through this whole thing and fight to get this person seen and back into the clinic. They go back into the clinic and they're seen again, and they're kicked out. It's kind of dismissed. He comes back 3 days later, he's got problems, and we're continuing to fight, going, hey, this person's still got problems. Well, they're old. They have these things. It's excuse after excuse after excuse. Ended up, he come to me, he showed up a week ago at my office Monday morning. A friend drove him, and the friend knocked on the door. Michelle come out and seen there was a problem. She goes, Gary, we got an emergency. So I go out to the vehicle, and the veteran is going, Gary, I hurt, help me. Gary, help me. So I don't know what to do. So we sent him to the emergency room. He went to the emergency room. They actually took him into the hospital. Now they're actually trying to figure out what's going on with him. They're digging down deeper. They tried a lot of different things to try to get him. They couldn't get him fixed. So they sent him up to Duluth. He got up to Duluth. He finally got to a specialist that found out what was wrong, but everything that they had treated him for other things, instead of getting to the person that, was maybe more qualified to look at him, said, sir, I'm sorry, I can't save you. If you would have been here a day ago or 2 days ago, we probably could have turned this around, but you're going to die. So they sent him home on Friday at 4:00, and he died on Sunday evening. This is the SHIT that I put up with, in trying to help these veterans. And that is just one example of many. that we've done, to try to help these veterans and get them in. So, and I have to be nice too, because I have to play nice with these people. I need their help, the support from the VA and from the state. The state's the same way. I mean, we go down to the state, they've got the VORP. They talk about it's a Veterans Outreach and Recovery Program, where they put people in charge of counties within the state. I got to catch my wind here. I hate this mask. They took these people, they're supposed to be out there to help mental health, homeless, drug addicted, alcohol and drug addicted people in the state. When COVID-19 come in, they shut them down, just like they shut down a lot of VA employees and sent them home to hide in their closets and do work there. They cannot go out and help. Well, this person that's in charge of our county, along with every other person in the state that works for WDVA for this, is not allowed to go out and do outreach. They can't do their job. But the world did not stop turning over COVID-19. We still have people that are drug and alcohol addicted, that have mental health issues. We still have people that are dying of diseases they will die if not treated. And that has been slowed down or stopped completely. So now they're starting to open it up. The VA is starting to see 75% of the people, but they're still not. If you don't have an appointment, you're not getting in. So that's where we're at.
That is a concern. I appreciate you sharing that. Even at our tribal clinic, we addressed that we were overlooking certain concerns that people had during this pandemic, and that it was going to become irreversible. So appreciate it. Other than that, Gary, do you have any safety concerns, anything in your office that you might want to share? Or?
Safety concerns? Yeah, we have mental health people. I've talked about this before. So we've got people with mental health issues. In the last month, I had somebody from out of another county try getting in to, help. He called me up for help and asked him a couple of questions. Well, all his stuff was at another office in another county. And I said, look, I'll get you over there, reach out to him and have him contact you to see you. But the flags went up that this person wasn't right, and I didn't have the stuff. And why were they avoiding their county office? So I contacted that office. They knew this person very well. He's known quite well by law enforcement at state, federal level, plus the federal VA, the state VA, and the county office for being violent. So, and it's not an assumption; it's a fact. But anyway, that gentleman, I tried to push him off twice on the phone, go back to the county. They're willing to help you. They were willing to help him. He just needed to show up. There was no difference in driving time from their office to ours. He didn't want to do that, so he ended up showing up. He ended up showing up at my office, and I seen a guy go up to the door. I've never seen this person before in my life. And he's like, so I went out the door and I, seen what he needed. And he basically, you could tell it was a fight or flight. He was shaken, quite upset. And I don't mean like crying type upset. So, but he said that basically I'd cost him like $500,000 over the next, whatever, so many years because I didn't help him. And the fact of the matter is I did. But I guess if you were there, you would realize that was not just a conversation. So it was more threatening than anything. I've had people with meth. I've had people that were breaking their necks to look out over to this building door here because there's sheriff's deputies sitting there. So yeah, I've got some safety concerns if that's what you want. I got a button that you can push. But like I told Mr. Hawk, I said, it's no more than a clean up an aisle one button. So when things happen, they happen very quickly. So anyway, we've got some things involved, but it's, we've tried the buttons before, but do you know how long it takes for somebody to show up? So, and it's not the sheriff's department, it's the city police.
Okay, you shared those concerns.
Would you like, huh?
You shared your.
Yeah, we've
Okay.
talked about that situation, but there's been others. So
All right, thank
I
you.
don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what you're gonna do. So, but that's kind of where we're at.
Mr. Kinsley?
Can't thank you enough for everything you do. I know there's a lot more that you do than what's out here on a piece of paper, and what you can give in one report. But a little bit of a different subject, I believe that maintenance has been over there doing some work for you.
They have for the electrical or the smell.
I'm not sure which I ever read in the report.
All right. Well, the smell is not from the Hayward Bakery. I don't know. I don't know what it is, and they've been working on it for years, and it comes and goes. It smells like sewer or gas, but it doesn't go away. And you know, Michelle was talking about it again this morning. She walked in and said, "Geez," you know, and but she was right. She said, you know, she could smell it when she first started working there, but it seemed like it got worse when the heat went on. So I don't know, you know, I don't know what's causing it. They don't know what's causing it. So they've been back and forth on you know, fresh air exchanger, you know, that seemed to help a little bit to, you know, it's not, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. It's like we've got something going on, but nobody seems to be able to put their finger on it.
Jim's on it, right? Did I see that in the report on it? Public Works?
He's trying, and even I want to hear Gary's side of the story.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they don't know. They don't know it. They don't know what it is. So I know we had some mildew smell in the office, but I figured that's because the water, when it rains, it comes in and the carpet gets wet. So, but that's a mildew smell. That's not this.
Yeah.
So, and I've had multiple complaints since I've worked there about you've got a gas leak or you got a sewer leak. I don't know.
Thank you for
Tom,
everything, Gary.
yeah, thank you, Gary. Tom, you let him know we still need that. Okay, please. All right, thank you, Gary. Appreciate all you do on the rest of the board.
Dismissed.
Thanks, sir.
So good.
All right,
Gary,
moving on
thank you for your
then
service.
to number 11, Mike, IT report, please.
Thank you. Good morning. The state elections security commission had a grant that we were awarded in the amount of $39,065, and so they actually that we have the cash on hand now, and there's 3 projects that we're going to be using that money for. So those include a security assessment being done by Heartland Security and an email server upgrade for the sheriff's department. That's kind of some aging equipment there, and then let's see, one other piece of it. Oh yeah, an intrusion detection system. So we're busy kind of working on those things, getting those projects set up and installing some hardware for it. We've got some final specifications for the courtroom digital audio recorder system. There's going to be an upgrade there for both courtrooms, and so the state, the CCAP system has been going around other counties throughout the state upgrading that system. So both courtrooms are going to be getting that. Marge asked a good question. Do we want to continue even if we go forward with another courtroom? But they felt, well, that may be some time out, so let's go ahead and get the equipment into the small courtroom. We've been doing some work on sound systems. We're going to be installing a different camera here in this room for meetings. We did complete an audio upgrade here. That's what that funny looking thing on the table is. I think Tom called it a budget balancer, but I like that better than sound mixer. We'll be heading down to the south buildings, the Ojibwa Ambulance Garage. needs to have a wireless access point for the ambulances, so that their equipment in there needs internet. So we're going to be doing that on Monday. The two highway departments we have to visit to fix a camera, and then give them some hook up to our network so they can do printing for their daily worksheets. Sheriff's Department, we had to install a new battery backup system. The old one went out. It was supposed to be for next year, but it kind of died, so we had to fix that. We're also going to be converting the sheriff's website from an old WordPress site and move it over to the county's site. Projects in progress. Admin conference room audiovisual system, that should be finished by next week, so they can have their Zoom meetings and other meetings locally and remote. We're going to be installing some proximity card readers for two departments, land records and zoning, next week also. And there's that election security grant, which I just discussed. We've got to renew our HTTPS certificates, and that's just part of ongoing maintenance, really. Sheriff's Department, incoming and outgoing caller ID, that should be fixed now. And yeah, I think that about covers the pending and completed and future projects that we have.
Mr. Founder?
So are you taking over the maintenance for the Sheriff's Department's website?
We're still going to allow whoever in that department wants to work on it to be able to continue doing that. Amy Walter, I think, is the dispatcher that's been doing it, and she'll be able to do the same thing.
That's a very popular website for the jail population and also for the clients. So I would, if you're going to take that over, I would be really good.
Well, actually, that's a piece that we have automated. There's a process that runs out of their Spillman system and posts it there automatically. We wrote that several years ago, and that will continue.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any questions? Helen, you have anything for Mike?
He's muted again, so we're going to
Okay.
do 20 minutes to try to
All right,
get it straightened out.
Appreciate it, Mike. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to number 12 then.
I don't really have anything to report. I thought maybe I had to answer some budget questions.
Can you answer how the balance of
Yes.
is your
Do
budget
you really
balanced?
want to know?
Is your budget balanced?
Okay.
Yeah, not much of a change. The only thing that fluctuates is the workshop.
All right, thank you, Carol. Number 13, human resource report. Rose?
Yes, gave you guys a report. Not too much going on. We've got all of our contact tracers hired and trained and working now in public health. So that'll help out our nursing staff quite a bit. Our shop foreman out at the highway department is retiring, so we are recruiting for that position. The tax sister has notified us that she will be retiring, so we are working on a timeline to recruit that. And we still have some open AEMT and EMT positions over in the ambulance that we're intentionally holding open and filling with part-time to get through the budget year. And the time clock project's just rolling along. One time I won't have to talk about the time clock project.
Rose, we met last night for Public Works and Highway Department. That's been having their report run that they were short on employees, so they couldn't do the cutting along the highways and the mowing that they generally do.
He had trouble recruiting flaggers and mowers this year. He had gotten flaggers, and I think it's one way or the other. He got flaggers and he put them on the mowers, or he got mowers and he had to move them over to the flaggers. Yeah.
He's been shorthanded, yes, and that's why they don't get all the projects.
Who was the shop foreman?
Jason.
Been there 31 years.
Wow.
It was an old job.
Well, my concern in public works is that it could be a safety hazard, the lack of mowing and brushing along the highways, so I brought that up. It's concerning, we don't have enough employees to do that. Especially with what the sheriff's department reported, with they're at 10 deaths already, which is a record pace. For sort of thing.
And we'll call it deer season coming. I mean, deer will be going to rut soon, and that's helps to be able to see them, but they're continuing to mow the best they can.
Okay, any questions for HR and Rose? Anyone? Helen, you have any questions for Rose? All right. Moving on. Is that you, Mr. Hoff?
Yes.
There you are.
All right, thank you. A few items to mention here this month. We did meet with the city regarding the second courtroom. We'll be discussing that tomorrow, or next week, actually. Next week, Thursday, at the county board meeting. The result of those negotiations. So that is moving along. In finance this morning, we did talk more in depth about the 2021 budget and where we're at, and the issuance of debt that we will be doing in 2021 to balance the budget on some of the capital items. And we'll go into more detail in that at the county board as well. Had some good discussion there, obviously, this morning. Got some renewals this time of year: property, liability, crime, insurance renewals. Mike needs to get the audit report before he can submit the property values and get a estimate on property insurance for next year, but we hope that doesn't increase too much. We haven't had too many claims on the property side this year. Health insurance is another story. We continue to have high claims in health insurance. We're working with our vendor, our consultant, Horton, going out to market and look for health insurance and see if anyone else will give us a bid this year. Also working with them to talk about our HRA and flex plans and see how that may be able to help keep our premiums lower if we do some different plan design changes, not only on the health insurance side, but with our HRA that the city contributes to that plan as well. We have some folks in the room here that will be in our next meeting. That's for bargaining with the sheriff's department on their upcoming union contract. So we've got a team that will be negotiating with the sheriff's union on that. Talk a little bit about ambulance billing. I think I mentioned before that the ambulance billing company that we use has been purchased by another individual. And so we'll be meeting with them, make sure that we continue to get the service that we require there. As you probably are aware, there's some concern about the high water levels, particularly on Perch Lake. We've received information from the Perch Lake Fishing Association on that and are investigating that situation as well. So as we get some more information, we'll be coming back to the board and to them with that information as well. What else? Justice Point on the CJCC, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. We'll be dealing with a consultant from the Milwaukee area called Justice Point. So we've had some discussions with them. We've got them under contract, or will soon, to provide the services formerly provided by in-house staff. So I think we've got a meeting next week for CJCC to talk about that more in depth. But we will need to update the MOU that we have with LCO for the contribution of services and financial dollars to help offset some of those costs. That MOU that we have currently expires in January of 2021, so it's important that we get that in place before the end of the year so that we can ensure that we can do what we think we're going to do with Justice Point. Got a couple other MOUs that we need to get working on as well. We do one with UW Extension that provides services, and LCO also contributes to a portion of one of the educators there. And so we need to update that MOU. And we had a discussion in the Economic Development Committee meeting about the Economic Development Corp and the MOU that we have with them regarding the contribution that the county makes to that organization and the services that they provide. So a couple of MOUs that need updating before the end of the year there. Got some other items, but if you have any other questions or comments on other items we have going on in the county, be happy to answer any questions you have on those.
Who's the one that takes the lead on the MOUs?
It would be me on the county side, and then whatever for the organizations involved.
The UW extension, is that through the tribe or is that through the college?
I know the tribe pays it.
Tribe pays it?
Yep. Is it 15,000 or 5?
It's a third of Ariga's
wages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And is the public health ordinance going up to the full board?
Sorry, I missed that one. The update, the revision to the public health ordinance was discussed at Health and Human Services Committee on Tuesday evening. They were given the document, the revised document that included changes that were discussed in the Public Safety Committee. They had some concerns and comments, and they wanted to review that further. Dr.
Sabrina Dunlap.
Sabrina Dunlap is working with Julia on some of the comments that came out of Health and Human Services. And I believe that motion was made to go back to Health and Human Services next month. They wanted another crack at that. So that is moving along. They had some good discussion, actually in both committees, some good healthy discussion about the activity surrounding that ordinance and the reasons for that revision. So I think we'll get a good ordinance out of that when we're all said and done. I think that's moving along nicely.
I would agree. What about the high water at Perch Lake and the property owners around that lake, and that they were concerned about the Highway B construction previous that caused that? Do you have any more comment on that?
Not at this time. That was construction that was done in the late 70s, and that's what takes a little longer to discern exactly what happened back then and how that affects what's happening now. So no more comments at this time, but we're investigating and we'll come back with more information when we have that.
Okay, anything else for Mr. Hoff? Anybody get a hand up? No? Okay. All right, thank you, Tom. Moving on to the future agenda items. I know I have the one, the LCO library request. Make sure that's on October's, please. Anything else? Any other matters for this?
There was a comment in Finance Committee this morning from a member of the public, or what was it this meeting? I forget which meeting I'm at, but regarding the public comments, is that something that you want to readdress at admin next month? That would be another possible item.
Yes. Yep. Thank you, Tom. Any other matters for discussion on? Anyone? Alan, you have anything? Okay, if not, we're adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Tuesday, but-
Yep.